Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Today we are looking at some new malicious compliance stories. I hope you enjoy the video. The first story is called Pizza Compliance. I'm the assistant kitchen manager in a gourmet pizza place where we have a giant brick oven. My station every night is manning that behemoth 600 degrees monster for hours on end. We have an open kitchen where from the register you can see the oven and whatever I'm doing behind the register girl. Now, a big part of running a giant brick oven is that every possible chance you get, you want to sweep out the burnt semolina from the bottom of the oven. It's a coarse wheat grain stuff that's used to make the pizza slide off the peel into the oven. If you don't sweep out the burnt semolina, you'll have a burning and smoking black dust covering the whole bottom of the brick oven. When you put the pizza in, the burning semolina attaches itself to the bottom of the raw dough, thus making the pizza look and taste burnt. Today my understaffed line is super busy and I am trying to keep up with all the pizzas coming in and out of the oven, as well as expediting every order. A lady comes up to the register, where she's about 8 feet from me and can see my every move, and she asks me where her pizza is. I locate the order and it's on the counter for me to put into the oven. I tell her that I'm about to put the pie in the oven after I clean it, and she says to me, "Well, why can't you put it in before you clean it?" I try to tell her that if the burning semolina is on the bottom of the oven, then it will burn the bottom of the pizza. But she wasn't having any of it and insisted on getting her food right then. No cleaning the oven. Just immediately cooking her pizza. So I wait to clean the oven and put her pizza in. All the while this lady is watching me like a hawk from across the counter. A few minutes later I pull it out and sure enough it looks burned on the bottom. But screw it, she made her bed. I pen up the pizza and hit her buzzer number and she comes to get her food. Not even 5 minutes later she comes back with such an attitude, complaining that her pizza was burned. I told her that this is more likely to happen when the oven hasn't been swept clean, and she kinda just muttered, "Oh," and see you internal victory. Of course I offered to make her a new one after I cleaned the oven, but I hope that from now on she will respect kitchen procedures and not try to argue with the people handling the quality of her food. The next story is called Legendary Teacher. This happened to some high school classmates of mine in the late 1990s. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough to be part of it. The AP Calculus class teacher had a tradition that held up for at least a decade, where if you brought your college acceptance letter, you'd be invited to his breakfast club. Essentially, instead of taking the math final exam for the year, he'd provide transportation to the local IHOP, buy everyone breakfast and shoot the breeze together. The gesture was a popular and welcome one. After all, these were the brightest kids in the school, the top 10%, including the valedictorian and the salutatorian, the captain of the debate team and others. Taking a final exam when they have already assured their places in Ivy League schools was a pointless formality after all. The year this story happened, however, there was a new teacher who made a big deal about how unfair the breakfast club was. Funnily enough, her name was Karen. The school's vice principal came in and told the class that they would stay in the school with everyone else and take the final exam, or else they'd face in-school suspension. The AP Calculus teacher had his hands tied. So on the day of the test, a Friday, the whole class came in and took the test, which consisted of a single question. "What's your name?" The students looked up to see a grin on the teacher's face and they quickly caught on. Everyone filled in their papers, submitted them, and then they went off to IHOP. Perfect test scores for everyone. By the time the weekend was over, the whole school knew the story. Karen must have complained to the vice principal once more because he came and gave in-school suspension tickets for the entire class. It was truly an odd sight to see the school's geniuses fall into the ISS room, only to find the AP Calculus teacher who had volunteered for monitor duties or swapped with the normal monitor or something. And he had brought bags of bagels, cream cheese, white fish spread and butter for everyone serving suspension that day. This teacher is a legend. I hope you enjoyed today's video so far. If you want more content, please subscribe to the channel. And if you like the video, don't forget to press the like button, it really helps. And now onto the next story. The third story is called Comply with Break Rules. This happened a few years ago when working for a well-known UK retailer. I was working on the store operations team at the time. I was responsible for opening or closing the store, dealing with contractors, taking deliveries, supporting the shop floor staff by picking orders to fill the shelves, and so on. When on the early shift, 3 or 4 of us would open the store at 5 AM. We would do our safety checks and start taking the clothing and food deliveries. We would also segregate the deliveries, ready for the shop floor staff starting at 7 so they could fill the shelves easier. We would then be sending stock up to the shop floor. 1 or 2 of us would be on the shop floor, clearing empty trays, tidying up packaging, bringing up and sending down stock. And another 1 or 2 downstairs sorting the stock that came back, putting it in the cold room and sorting the dates. Busy mornings. We were told we couldn't go for a break whilst this was going on, as it was all hands on deck. And we also couldn't all go for our breaks together afterwards, as someone had to be available for anything that came up. Fine, but it would sometimes be maybe 10:30 or 11 by the time we got for our breaks, 5 to 6 hours after starting the shift. Add to this that we'd been working in a cold room, a walk-in fridge. So it really would have been nice to have a sit down with a hot drink. Company policy was to give a break at least every 4 hours, which obviously we weren't getting. However, we didn't mind this too much. We understood that we needed to be more flexible. But some mornings, if delivery was running late or if we got the first one closing done early, say by 4:45, and the next one food wasn't due till 6, we'd pop to the canteen for a quick coffee, or chill out on the loading bay chatting and waiting for the next delivery. One morning we all got called up to the manager's office. Someone had complained that we were taking unauthorized breaks. I explained I was on a staff panel at the time, kind of like an internal union, about how we were being flexible when not getting a break for 5 to 6 hours when everyone else in the shop got one every 3 to 4 hours. But it fell on deaf ears. We were given a written warning and told we must not take unauthorized breaks, and if we did have some downtime, we had to fill it by starting to stock shelves ourselves. So we decided to make sure none of us went over the 4-hour threshold for breaks. That meant us taking our breaks from around 8 AM, right in the middle of when we were needed most. Staff complained that they couldn't get their stock quick enough, or that the shop floor was a mess, that we shouldn't be taking breaks so early. But was starting at 5 AM and taking a break at 8 any different from them starting at 7 and getting their break at 10? Suffice to say, after a few days of this we went back to normal and no one complained about us grabbing a quick coffee again. The next story is called, well, at least it solves one problem. Back in the dawn of smartphones, I was doing consumer tech support for a wireless carrier. My scope was internet functions on your phone, like web browsing, email and some in-house apps. One of those apps was a third-party corporate syncing solution I called CorpTech. CorpTech had a bunch of features in addition to the standard email and contact syncing, which boiled down to administration stuff like restricting web browse and text messaging, forcing a password for unlock and stuff. All of this was almost exclusively supported by CorpTech themselves, and my senior reps had the only escalation path. So one day I had a guy who was an in-house administrator for a company and was having problems with CorpTech. As soon as he joined the device to the CorpTech system, web browsing would fail. My options were limited, since I couldn't see his CorpTech server config, so we focused on the device. We master reset the device and everything worked. This meant the device and wireless network were working. The problem is outside of my scope. Cool. I reached out for assistance from my senior rep, and unfortunately I got a guy who we'll call Dwayne. Dwayne was in another part of the country, in a call center that was frequently viewed as an incompetent set of morons. I had a section of my cubicle wall dedicated to receipts from the local bar labeled Call Center B Inspired Drinking. Additionally, he was the sort of guy who was more interested in rules and regulations as opposed to his job. I suspect he was promoted so he wouldn't be talking to customers anymore, but I digress. I tell Dwayne we need to escalate to CorpTech's support team. He put the brakes on that and insisted on troubleshooting further. Fortunately, the caller was cool and we repeated the steps, all while keeping Dwayne updated in chat. Dwayne insisted that if CorpTech synced, it meant the phone's internet connection was good. I agreed and suggested it was a CorpTech setting blocking web browse, hence my wanting to escalate to them. Dwayne insisted it wasn't that and has me tell the customer to master reset again. I ask what we should do if it doesn't work. He says it's a bad device and to exchange it. I'm a little taken aback. It can't be a bad device since it works perfectly outside of Corp-Tech's influence. But sure, I'll swap out the device. I talk to the caller and say I'm being instructed to exchange his phone, but he may want to look further into his Corp-Tech server settings. He understands. I save the chat transcript with Rain. I'm friendly with the senior reps in my building, so I print out the transcript and wander over on my break. I hand it to one of them and suggest they take a look at it. Her eyes got really wide as she skimmed it, and she asked if she could give it to her boss, the head of all the senior reps. I smiled and said sure, I can print another copy. It turns out this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Dwayne was fired not long after. The last story is called Don't Believe Me? I have worked at a call center at a well-respected company in my area for about 2 years now. When I was about a year in, I started working from home. At this point, my supervisor wasn't the best person. I don't know if she didn't like me because I didn't take her garbage like everyone else on the team did, or if it was something else entirely. We butt heads a lot. Anyway, a few months ago in April, the desk chair at my home office broke while I was noting an account. I'm not the lightest guy, and it was a really old chair I got from my ex. My back was injured really badly. Parts of the chair were dug into my skin. I had cuts and parts of my shirt were stained red and cut up from the injuries. I messaged my supervisor immediately about this, telling her I would be clocking out to go to the hospital. Now, I have never been late a day in my life, and I almost never use time off, even when it's offered. There was no reason for me to be skipping work that day either, especially since the office was so slow. After I'm in my car with a towel on the driver's seat, my supervisor texted me somehow offended that I was going to the emergency room. She later said she didn't believe me and that if I wanted any kind of workers' compensation, I had to prove it to her. Cue malicious compliance. Once I was home from the emergency room, I snapped a photo of my freshly stitched bag, my stained shirt and a picture of the broken chair. I sent a photo of these things to her as well as a screenshot of the text to HR and the site director, just to make sure nothing got lost. I later got reimbursed for my time, the medical bills, and a $400 replacement chair to use moving forward. The day after I came back, I was called by the site director who told me I would be changing to another team. And a week later, I was told my old supervisor was no longer with the company. The moral of the story: don't take guff from anyone and always keep the receipts. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. Have a great day. Bye bye.